Hello and welcome to Bowlfast Talk Straight on the end of day 2 between India and New Zealand in Mumbai. A day that New Zealand fans won't forget in a hurry. Neither will a certain Ajaz Patel. What a fantastic day it has been for that young man. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a review. Well, Jon Norman, I've kept you up in New Zealand to join the show today because a certain Ajaz Patel has achieved one of them things in life, which is you remember where you are moment. I will certainly remember where I was. 10 wickets in an innings. What a fantastic, even though their side is probably out of the game, New Zealand are out of the game. What a fantastic achievement. And what a day's test cricket we've had to witness, both obviously in India, but yourself in New Zealand.
Yeah, well, look, it's taken something special for me to return to the show. I've flown out specially to New Zealand just so I can celebrate. They're all dancing on the streets of Auckland. I mean, what a performance! What a display! I mean, I couldn't believe it. We've watched this game for many, many years. You've played the game for many, many years, and I mean, I was smiling just thinking about it. When that last wicket fell, and I was listening to commentary on TalkSport 2 of our mate Jared Kimber, and it was perfect as well, wasn't it? It wasn't a close bat pad. It wasn't, sometimes you're not quite sure if it's an LBW or he's been bowled or it's been caught, or it was a lovely hit straight up into the gods. Jared had all the time in the world. He knew there must be a fielder settling underneath it. He could give it the full whack with the comms. He nailed it, and so did Ajaz Patel. I mean, it was just incredible, wasn't it? It was such an amazing. If I had never ever seen a bowler take all 10 wickets, I wouldn't have been surprised. It's one of those things you just don't think you'll ever see. So yeah, well done, Patel. And the narrative as well, the fact he's gone back home and he's got some friends and family in the crowd, and he was born in Mumbai, the first bowler to ever take 10 wickets away from home, first bowler to ever take 10 wickets in the first innings of a test match. Harmy, only 3 men in the history of the game have ever done it. And we've had about 8,800 innings of test cricket. Can't believe it. I just cannot believe it.
Yeah, it just doesn't get any better, to be honest. And I remember just something that sits with you is the little comments that superstars make. And Joe Root talked about 100 he scores when he says, it's brilliant the moment it happens, because there is a split second when better than more than anybody else. That actual connection of the ball, I think he hit one down the ground. I'm not sure if it was a Headley. He described this 100 that he got. And he said, I knew more before anybody else did, because as soon as the ball hit the bat, I knew how hard I'd hit it. I knew how well I'd hit it. And I knew for that split second I had 100 before anybody else in the crowd had known it. And a little bit today when the ball, Patel bowled and Siraj has gone underneath it and it's gone up in the air. Yes, I think it was that moment, that Joe Root moment, that surreal moment of knowing that if this is caught, then I have got 10 wickets in an innings. Can you imagine that feeling? I was on the field. The best I got was 7. I think I got 8 in a club game. And I was never in a position, I don't think, because Huggy got, during that 7 for 12, Huggy got Brian Lara. I think I got 7 for not very many against Warwickshire in about 2008-9. And I think I had the first 6 out of 7, thinking, there's a potential that it's on. I watched Otis Gibson from a stand at Durham take all 10 wickets against Hampshire. And when it got to about 6 or 7, I thought, yeah, he's got a chance here. But you're never really, really, really sure. The moment he got Ajaz Patel, I knew that was it. He's got 10 here, because any bowler in his teammates is just going to chuck it down leg side for 6 balls against 2 or 3 overs, 6 balls down leg side. against Umesh Yadav and Mohammad Siraj, who are just going to try and hit it as far as they can, really, because not the greatest defense. The minute he got Ajaz Patel was the minute I thought, right, he's got it now. This is it. Unless there's a silly run out between two number 11s, two number 10, number 10, and number 11, then he's got it. And like you said before, it's a moment where where you were when if you were watching that last wicket go down. And you mentioned first innings. That's what makes it special. I'm trying to work out in batting terms. We mentioned on Talk Sport, the 400 that Lara got in Antigua against a very, very good England bowling unit. It was West Indies were 3-0 down on the flattest pitch that I have ever seen. And that's not to take anything away from Brian, but this is series on the line, first innings, when you've lost the toss and you've been told you're going to bowl first, to get all 10 wickets. That is a special achievement, and I'm really pleased for the kid, because he fronted up and he bowled over after over after over, nearly 50 overs he bowled, and he'll never. This is something that will never be forgot. You mentioned 8,800. The numbers that have played, the Test match games, the innings in Test match cricket. Another 100 years. And the name Ajaz Patel will always be synonymous with Test match cricket, because he's one of three, and that for me is wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a brilliant picture, actually, because overnight he'd taken 4 wickets. There's a brilliant picture that was taken by one of the New Zealand guys, I think, New Zealand press guys, as he's walking into the ground. He's staring up at the honours board.
I've seen that. Well, big yellow
his name, board, yeah, that's right. That was when he had 4 wickets. He thought, I wonder if he might get a 5 and might get his name on the honours board. Well, they might end up naming, not quite a standoff to you, but you might get a pillar. So well done to him. It was absolutely incredible, and the reaction from the Indian players I thought was spot on as well.
Yeah, beautiful, wasn't it?
It really was, and this was before New Zealand got skittled as well. 325 is a good score. I mean, but but the fact that they applauded and they got involved in that, I think that's credit to them. So, fantastic stuff. Unfortunately, though, that's where it ended really for New Zealand, because they were them 6 down by T. 16 overs, 16.4 overs later, you're thinking, well, Ajaz Patel's going to be coming out to bat soon. Eventually bowled out for 62. Ashwin's 8 overs, Ashwin 8 overs, 2 maidens, 4 for 8. I mean, he was unplayable. I mean, but so was Mohammad Siraj. There was an off cutter that he bowled at about 88 miles an hour, which Henry Nicholls missed by about a foot. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, that was full on India, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a team that had been on the field for a while. New Zealand, a team that I think the legs had gone a little bit of, they'd burnt themselves out. What they had gone through in Kanpur was a tough 5 days. That was a long, hard Test match, and to get on the bike again and go again, I think was just that one too far. New Zealand probably needed to win the toss and bat first, just to give their bodies a rest and a chance to recover from Kanpur. They didn't. They've gone and fielded for another 110 overs, and the batters they'd been out there for a while. And I mentioned it during the first Test match on how good I believe that Suresh Iyer's 100 was in the first Test, because the young man hasn't played a great deal of first-class cricket, and he fielded for 148 overs. And that's no mean feat to then go out and bat. And I think New Zealand showed as though they'd been in the field for quite some time. Mohammad Siraj playing for his place. He wants a place in this India side going to South Africa. He bowled beautifully in England when he played in England. Started to burn out by the end of the Test series, but still the enthusiasm, his energy, his aggressiveness towards the player and into his lengths are pretty much spot on for what you want as a captain. And he set the tone very, very well. He bowled a good ball to get rid of Will Young. 2 balls before was a nice away swinger, and then this one just went straight on, and Will Young's off balance and nicked it. Tom Latham will say, I nailed it. It was a decent ball. It was a good bouncer, but I nailed it. It was a shot that I executed. Yeah, I nearly executed it perfectly. If it's at the middle of my bat, I've took it on. I've tried to be positive intent. And he's picked the only fielder out within 50 yards of where he was trying to hit it. But the ball that Siraj bowled to Ross Taylor. You can talk about any other bowler who's bowled well in this series so far. That's the ball of the series. To just clip the top of off stump against a player who has played 110 test matches, who actually shaped up not too bad in his early part of his innings, was the thing that set the tone. And then from there, it was just relentless pressure. Ajaz Patel and Ravi Ashwin, for me, when they're bowling like that together, and a batsman, you have to sometimes take a risk. You either die in a hole and wait for the inevitable, that one of them's going to get you out, or you might have to be proactive and come at them and try and be aggressive, which is a big, big ask, especially when your body's a bit tired and you've just had 110 overs in the field. So I think all in all, it was just, I think, having fielded for 110 overs, what happened in Kanpur, the energy that they had to use, for me, there's no surprise that New Zealand got bowled out for less than 100.
Yeah, absolutely. A quick word for Mayank Agarwal. By the way, we've had a couple of people getting in touch. Arpit, good evening from India. Hello, Arpit. VJ says, hey, Stevie, how are you, dude? I'll let you answer that one. Sonny says...
I'm tired. I'm weary. And you think, a lot of people have been nervous about the cricket that's being played at the minute. And in 3.5 hours' time, I'm going to be nervous about something completely different. Newcastle United need 3 points, going to St James's Park. So I'll answer that question, VJ, in about 5:30 tonight, and I'll tell you how I am.
Yeah, well, I won't be around for that because it's the other part of the day for me. And VJ says, could you please introduce the person sitting the other side? Oh, I am Fulham John, TalkSport's cricket editor, and I've just been away for a few shows, haven't I, Harmy? But back now, especially after what we witnessed today, which we broadcast on TalkSport 2. So if you want to listen to radio commentary, download the TalkSport app and you can hear Steve Harmison and myself, Jared Kimber, Abhishek Jujunwala, and also Neil Manthorpe talking through day 3. I mean, look, I asked Abhishek about who's going to open up for India in South Africa. They're essentially going to drop a guy who scored 150. He may score a century tomorrow on day 3. In fact, he probably will. And he still won't make the first 11 when India line up against South Africa, which is crazy.
It's crazy, but you know what, Willie? I'm not so sure. That's what annoyed me a little bit about the declaration.
We haven't even got onto that yet, have we?
No, but this goes into it because for me, this was your chance to move on. What a lot of Indian supporters are, not everybody, because I still think it was split 50-50, whether Rahane keeps his place. And tell us whether you think Rahane should keep his place, whether you think Pujara should keep their place. I'm looking at if you're going to go to South Africa and play against, Kagisa Rabada on Rick Nokia, if Ngiri's playing, you've got high quality seamers. I want people in form. And the ones that are in form at this minute in time are Sirish Iyer and Mayank Agarwal. I look at the side. If you've got a side going to South Africa from India, you look at Rohit Sharma comes back in. I would pick Rohit Sharma, Agarwal. Here Rahul fits that number 3 spot, isn't it? He's been opening, and you've got Virat Kohli, Sirish Iyer, Rishabh Pant. You've got Jadeja, Ashwin, Shami, Suraj, and Bumrah. That, for me, would be a formidable team going to India. I think there's runs in that team. There's definitely wickets in that team on whatever surface you're going to play. And you're rewarding people who have batted in or in a bit of form. Agarwal potentially could have 150 and a 50 or 100 in the test match. Sirish Iyer has been the first player to score 100 and a 50 on debut. And that will be a test earlier than going to South Africa. I think these kids have got to play, and that's why the declaration for me was, if Virat Kohli walks away and says, right, you go and have a bat again, New Zealand, we beat you in 2.5 days. nearly 3 days, then Pujara doesn't get a chance to go and get an 80, 90, 100 and say, right, I deserve my place against a very, very tired, deflated New Zealand attack. You get to the first test match against Rabada, Nokia, and all the big boys in, where is it, in Durban? Or is it in Pretoria? Boxing Day?
To be honest with you, I'm really confused about when what is happening with this series. I think it's on. I think they've got the T20s, but Manners was saying it's going to start on Boxing Day. I'm not sure it is. Manners is Neil Manthorpe, by the way. Yeah. Either way, the point you're making is a valid one. Harris says, Jon Norman is also a great anchor. Just my compliments. Good lad. Get some questions into Harmy, by the way. We're going to be around for the next 5 or 10 minutes looking back at a ridiculous day. Hey, one thing we haven't even mentioned. You remember when Virat Kohli reviewed that clean bowled decision against Moeen Ali earlier this year when playing against England? I never thought I'd see it happen again. But Ashwin did the same thing today, didn't he? I mean, that was at a moment where you thought, hey, New Zealand are really back in this. 2 wickets and 2 balls, 224 for 6. They bowl India out for 250. Well, they might still get bowled out for 62. You don't know. But it was such a crazy game. The fact that Ashwin reviewed a clean bowl decision, that's only just been mentioned. And we've been on air for 16 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it was Stuart Broad at his best, wasn't it? Yeah, even I don't even think Brody, in his wisdom, would even try and get a review off a bowled. But whether Ashwin thought he's nicked it,
that's what it was, isn't it?
That's what he wanted.
Virat Kohli thought, I think, that Jos Buttler had disturbed the bails with his glove. Yeah. And Ashwin thought he'd been given out caught behind. I didn't touch that.
But the death rattle is a big.
The ball hit the stumps.
Yeah, the ball hitting the stumps makes a noise. It does, no matter whether you've got 50,000 in the Wankhede or 1,500 in there that was in there today, and it did make enough noise. It still makes enough noise to the death rattle to realise that there is your wicket's gone and you're out. So. Look, it was a weird and wonderful day. There were some crazy things. Yeah, Ajaz Patel, he got 10 wickets in an innings. He got up to catch and didn't even appeal for 2, and didn't refer the other one. So he hasn't referred 3 LBWs, 2 of which he didn't appeal of. He dropped the catch. So he could have 14 wickets himself.
I know.
By this 11 wickets in the Test match. So look, it's been a crazy day. And like I said, the one person that we haven't properly mentioned too much is Mayank Agarwal, who got a fantastic 150. It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned before, India could have been 260 for 5. Could have been 260 for 5, staring down a barrel of potentially being 300 all out. And they managed to get 325, which again, like at Kanpur, was a score which was always going to be too far out of. And 325 doesn't sound a great deal. But on a turning pitch with Ashwin and Axar, I just think a tired New Zealand was always going to be one step too far.
Well, VJ says, how Kiwis surrender for just 62? Is it because of talented attack from India or worse play by New Zealand's batsmen? We've got to remember, of course, Kane Williamson missing from the lineup. India are missing a lot of players as well. I'm still not quite sure New Zealand have gone in with the right side. Ravindra, and I don't think it would have made a huge amount of difference, if I'm being totally honest. But Rashan Ravindra is an opener. He should have played at 3. Daryl Mitchell is a middle order batsman. He should have played at 7. Tom Blundell is an aggressive wicketkeeper batsman. And all I've seen from him is just getting his foot down the pitch, halfway down the pitch, and trying to block the spin. He's just got to start hitting the ball. Will Young and Tom Latham, good, and Ross Taylor. Ross Taylor's played hardly any cricket for a long time, but brilliant bowling. But I'm not sure New Zealand really helped themselves at this Test match. I think they got away with it in the first Test, and they had the opportunity to change things and to correct the mistakes from the first Test. Wagner should have played in that Test, and for some reason they haven't done it.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think, the surrender for 62, I think a large down. Yeah, they haven't played a lot of Test match cricket, and they've had two monumental fielding sessions in the last 10 days, which has taken a lot out of the body. Mohamed Siraj set the tone, bowled beautifully, and put them in such a position, 15 for 3, that they were never ever going to recover from. And you give Ashwin and Ajaz Patel a sniff of really putting pressure on the opposition when there's no punches coming back. And then I think that's where you get to 62 all out. It sounds embarrassing, and it probably is embarrassing. But there's no real surprise after the course of what the five innings of Test match cricket we've had so far in this series.
Anuj Singh says, do you think that Ashwin will play in South Africa? Because, of course, he didn't play against England, did he? We kept expecting, Ashwin to play. He never did. And there's a ruthlessness about Virat Kohli. There's also a stubbornness. I wonder whether, excuse me, a change of coach might have opened the door for Ashwin to come in. But, I don't know. Ajaz Patel, was he going to start playing ahead of Jadeja? Who's wicket-taking threat is nowhere near what Ajaz Patel's is. So, could you see a day when Ajaz Patel's India's lone spinner when playing overseas? Because he can bat as well.
Yeah, the problem I find, John, with predicting this India side is there's logic, and then there's Virat Kohli's idea of what the side should be. Who on earth would have thought Ashwin would have missed so much cricket against England in the series when we had it on TalkSport in 12 months ago? So you can never predict what Virat wants or what he's trying, what he's thinking process is. Again, you'd think the two young guys have gone to, we'll be going to South Africa in Agarwal and in Iyer off the back of scoring hundreds in this series. But it wouldn't surprise me if Rahane and Pujara do play. It wouldn't surprise me if Ashwin doesn't play. I think Jadeja is so important to this team for his batting with Rishabh Pant at the number 6 and number 7. I think Jadeja's batting is so much superior to, even though Axar can bat, and so can Ravi Ashwin. I think he bats nicely at 7, does Jadeja. And I still think there's room for one more spinner, because even if they play on green seamers, the skill level of Ashwin is good enough, as he's as good as what any seam bowler would bowl on a seamer friendly wicket. And that sounds ridiculous because he's a spinner, but this guy is so skillful, so meticulous, and he can create so much pressure that your fourth seamer will nowhere near be as good as our Ashwin on a seamer friendly wicket. He is that good. So you don't get 400 odd Test match wickets if you haven't got discipline and skill level. So, and then you pick your best out and out seam bowlers, which would be, for me, Shami, Bumrah, and Mohamed Siraj, because his energy he gives off is ridiculous, and he's the way he goes about his job. In this side, I think it complements the side very, very well. It gives you a balanced attack. It gives you 3 seamers. It gives you 2 spinners. It gives you depth in batting. And probably Ajaz Patel, even with the record he's got in Test match cricket from a bowling department, he probably would be the one that misses out.
Okay, well, look, we're going to wrap things up. If you got a question, get it into us very quickly. But essentially, India will wrap up victory day 3 or day 4. But in a weird way, both sides are going to come away from this series with some real pluses, aren't they? Let's 2 things, right? India have essentially rested 6 or 7 players or rotated them, but New Zealand have lost both tosses. I don't think India have lost a game when they've won the toss in India since 2012. They are a phenomenal side. So, their first innings was disappointing, but individually they will look back at some really big performances, good team spirit. I think that New Zealand will take some pluses from this, and of course India would have won the series, and they'll see it as good preparation for perhaps a sterner test, but a very different test against actually a side that's not as good as New Zealand, but in home conditions, in front of home fans, with the likes of Rabada and Norkiev, they'll probably see it as pretty good preparation.
Yeah, I think they will. And you're right. I think you're spot on. There are a lot of positives from a New Zealand point of view. Young Ravinder looks a player. He looks as though he's got something in that lower middle order. If he's going to be the sort of second spinner, if you're playing at home, stroke, sixth batsman, whether Blundell batting ahead of him, and that will be his challenge to get above Tom Blundell in the order. Will Young batted very nicely up in Kanpur. Latham looks as though he's in good order. The captain looked in decent touch. From a bowling point of view, Jamieson, he struggled in this Test match, but I thought Jamieson and Southey up in Kanpur were fantastic. Yeah. And the two or three young players that have come in for India who have done themselves no harm whatsoever in Mayank Agarwal in this Test, Suresh Iyer in the first Test match, Mohammad Siraj and the spell that he's bowled now, and what he's potentially going to offer in the second innings. And Ajaz Patel keeps knocking on the door saying, you know what, you can't leave me out. You can't leave me out because I'm not going to let you leave me out. And if you are going to leave me out, whoever's going to take my place, whoever's going to be in at number 7 or number 8, when there be that left arm spin option or the spin option, they're going to have to bowl well because my record is just getting better and better. So I think all in all, it's been a good series and both sides have got positives to come out of it. I just think we're going to have a potentially boring day tomorrow to set up what will be a fast forward day on day 4. So, it's going to be 2 alarm calls at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I can't see us getting beyond 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning, which will be day 4, and New Zealand will have lost the series 1-0.
Well, we shall see. I still think it might finish on day 3, so your alarm call might be saved for Monday. Sonny and Harris, we'll get back. Yeah, well, we've got the Ashes. It goes the other way, doesn't it? So instead of 4 a.m. alarm calls, you're going to be knee deep in the afternoon or evening session by the time it gets to 4 a.m. So anyway, the joys of following cricket, eh? Harmy, brilliant stuff. Lovely to be back on the show, and thanks for joining us. We will be back here on Bowlfast Talk Straight following the conclusion of the second Test match between India and New Zealand. But for now, thanks for watching.